How does a story make a crowd go like this?
Fired up! Ready to go!
It's not a secret. In fact, there's a formula to it. A cheat code almost every screenwriter uses, and I'm about to show it to you.
This internet gonna blow up. Y'all not gonna be able to run y'all's cameras. Everything's gonna blow up. People gonna say, what is she doing?
Now, before we get into it, I was a spokesperson for Barack Obama. So let me say this. Neither you nor I are Barack Obama.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
But neither is Barack Obama all the time. He's actually been open about writing, rewriting, and practicing his speeches. I've actually seen early versions of this story I'm about to show you fall a little flat.
And it showed me that...
Plus, he was getting and listening to feedback the entire campaign. Don't believe me? Watch this clip of some of his senior advisors, much more senior than me at the time, talking to him about his speech.
But at the end, when you're doing fired up, let them say fired up. Give them a little bit.
That's what you were doing last night.
Yes, last night.
You got it. You know that.
No. He rushed him last night.
Rushed him?
Yes. You were saying ready to go when they were finishing fired up.
Okay, now let's rewind. We know the fired up, ready to go story is epic. If you can't already tell, it's my favorite. But what's the real story? Here's how Edith Childs, I've actually met her, the inventor of Fired Up Ready to Go, told me a couple of years ago on a commercial shoot.
I just went to welcome him to Greenwood, not for any other purpose. And then one of my friends said, Edith, I think you need to sing the Fired Up for the senator. I said, no, I don't want to do that. He said, no, go on and do that. You need to sing it for him. He needs to hear it. So I began to sing. Fired up, ready to go.
I love her so much. But Barack Obama, he tells this story like a movie with 3 acts and with the audience coming away with what screenwriter Robert McKee says being absolutely and irreversibly changed. The way that he tells this story is so much like a movie, and I'm going to show you this. It follows the Save the Cat beats from Blake Snyder almost exactly. Now, fair warning, I'm going to show you what these beats are, but you will never watch a movie the same way. There's 15 of them. It's not as complicated as you think, but literally every movie follows pretty much this format. And it goes like this. You start with an opening scene to set the tone. Then you state the theme of the movie. And then comes the actual setup for the story. But the adventure, it doesn't actually start until we hit some life-changing catalyst. The main characters or characters then debate how to react or what to do about it. And then the story breaks into Act 2's new world. The B storyline is then introduced to keep things light, provide some emotion, new characters. That's often your love story. And then comes all the cool adventure stuff that you see in trailers and movies. They dub that fun and games. And then you hit the midpoint where the viewer can see exactly where this story is headed. But no, you're wrong. The bad guys are closing in. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And just when you think it can't possibly get any worse, it does. All hope is lost. In movie lingo, this is called a false defeat. Our hero is absolutely done for. But in the dark night of the soul, when it's darkest before dawn, we finally break into Act 3, our final act where our hero musters the courage to overcome all odds. And that's when we get to the finale, the last 20 minutes of the movie, which actually Robert McKee says that's what movies are all about, that last 20 minutes. This is where our hero won't just triumph, he or she will literally change the world. And finally, we get that final image where everything is resolved and everybody and everything, including you, the viewer, is changed forever. Now that's quite the movie, but according to Blake Snyder, it's how every good movie flows. And for our purposes, it's how every great story is told. So back to that story. I'm going to play the longest and, in my opinion, the best told version of the Fired Up, Ready to Go story. From the day before the election in 2008, this was delivered in Prince William County, Virginia. And I'm going to note on screen every beat, every one of the Save the Cat beats, except for the B storyline, which I could argue some of the Edith details encompass, but I'm going to leave that out. And I've also added one final beat, the call to action, because you never, ever end a speech without a call to action. Okay, so here it goes. Barack Obama ending his 40-minute closing argument in 2008 with a story like a movie.
This campaign, I've had the privilege to witness what is best in America. In the stories, in the faces of men and women that I've met in countless rallies, town hall meetings, VFW halls, living rooms, diners, all across America. Men and women shared with me their stories and spoke of their struggles, but they also spoke of their hopes and their dreams, their love for their children, their sense of obligation and debts to be paid to earlier generations. And I met one of those women in Greenwood, South Carolina. It was back early when we were way back in the polls. Nobody gave us much of a chance back then. I had gone to South Carolina early in the campaign trying to see what I could stir up in the way of endorsements, and I was at a legislative dinner, and I was sitting next to a state rep. I really wanted her endorsement. So I turned to her and said, I really want your endorsement. And she looked at me and she said, I'll tell you what, Obama, I will give you my endorsement if you come to my hometown of Greenwood, South Carolina. And I must have had a sip of wine or something that night, because right away I just said, okay, I'm coming. So the next time I come to South Carolina is about a month later. We fly in about midnight. We get to the hotel about 1 o'clock. I'm exhausted. I'm dragging my bags into my room. I get a tap on my shoulder. And I look back, it's one of my staff people, says, Senator, we need to be out of the hotel by 6 a.m. And I say, why is that? He says, because we've got to go to Greenwood like you promised. So the next morning, I wake up and I feel terrible. I think I'm coming down with a cold, my back is sore. I feel worse than when I went to bed. I open up the curtains in the hotel room just to hopefully get some sunlight in, wake me up, but it's pouring down rain. I go outside my room, get the New York Times, open it up. There's a bad story about me in the New York Times. I go downstairs after I pack, and my umbrella blows open, and I get soaked. So by the time I'm in the car, I'm mad, I'm wet, and I'm sleepy. And so we drive, and we drive, and we drive. Turns out that Greenwood is about an hour and a half from everywhere else. Finally, we get to Greenwood. We pull up against, first of all, you don't know you're in Greenwood right away when you get to Greenwood. There aren't a lot of tall buildings in Greenwood. We pull up to a small building, a little field house and park. And we go inside, and lo and behold, after an hour and a half drive, turns out there are 20 people there. 20 people. And they all look kind of damp and kind of sleepy, like maybe they aren't really excited to be there either. But you know, I'm a professional. I've got to do what I've got to do. So I go around and I'm shaking hands. I'm saying, how you doing? What are you doing? Wait. As I go around the room, suddenly I hear this voice cry out behind me, fired up! And I'm shocked. I jump up. I don't know what's going on. But everybody else acts like this is normal, and they say, fired up. Then I hear this voice saying, ready to go. And the other 20 people in the room, they act like this happens all the time. They say, ready to go. I don't know what's going on. So I look behind me, and there's this small woman, about 60 years old. She's a little over 5 feet. Looks like she just came from church. She got a big church hat. And she's standing there, and she looks at me, and she's smiling. And she says, fired up! Turns out that she is a city councilwoman from Greenwood who also moonlights as a private detective. I'm not making this up. And it turns out that she is famous for her chant. She does this wherever she goes. She says, fired up, and the other people say, fired up, ready to go, ready to go. And so for the next 5 minutes, she proceeds to do this. Fired up, and everybody says, fired up, and ready to go, and everybody says, ready to go. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, I'm being outflanked by this woman here. I'm being, she's stealing my thunder. I look at my staff, they shrug their shoulders. They don't know how long this is going to go. But here's the thing, Virginia. After a minute or so, I'm feeling kind of fired up. I'm feeling like I'm ready to go. So I join in the chant. And it feels good. And for the rest of the day, even after we left Greenwood, even though it was still raining, even though I was still not getting big crowds anywhere, even though we hadn't gotten the endorsement of the people we were hoping for, somehow I felt a little lighter. I felt a little better. I'd see my staff. I'd say, "Are you fired up?" They'd say, "We're fired up, boss. Are you ready to go?" I'd say, "I'm ready to go." Here's my point, Virginia. That's how this thing started. It shows you what one voice can do. One voice can change a room. And if a voice can change a room, it can change a city. And if it can change a city, it can change a state. And if it can change a state, it can change a nation. And if it can change a nation, it can change the world. Virginia, your voice can change the world tomorrow. In 21 hours. In 21 hours, if you are willing to endure some rain, if you're willing to drag that person you know who's not going to vote to the polls, if you're willing to organize and volunteer in the office, if you are willing to stand with me, if you're willing to fight with me, I know your voice will matter. So I've just got one question for you, Virginia. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Fired up. Ready to go. Fired up. Ready to go. Fired up. Ready to go. Virginia, let's go change the world. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
That speech literally still gives me goosebumps. It's one of the greatest political speeches of all time. But now what? Well, first, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. I'm going to do more videos, and I have other videos. The next one I think is going to be how to tell your story in 60 seconds for like a debate or some high pressure situation. And if you're on other social media, share it there. But if you're watching, I am assuming that you're absolutely procrastinating writing your own speech or story. So in the comments, I'm going to put all of the Save the Cat beats if you want to use that. I'm going to put a link to Robert McKee's story. It's big, but it's perfect, and I love it. And I'll put some other stuff in there. Use these tools to write your own story. And really, if you boil all of this down, it's the same 3-act formula that you probably learned in high school. There's a setup, there's a confrontation, and there's a resolution. Don't make it more complicated than that. And finally, do not try to be Barack Obama. Be yourself. Use these guides to tell your own story your own way. The worst speeches and stories told can be told by anyone. That's how generic they are. Your best story can literally only be told by you. And importantly, these stories are not about you. They're about your audience. Barack Obama's Fired Up, Ready to Go story is not about Barack Obama. It's about you. And I want to end with this quote from Robert McKee. He writes in the story, "For above all else, beyond imagination and skill, what the world asks of you is courage. Have the courage to use your voice. Because if one voice can change a room, you know how that story goes." Thanks for watching. Now go save the world.
Come on, Kevin. Look, I'm following your lead now.